Lads, we're back.
Hey guys.
Yes.
Woo! All right.
Still
We've got
doing this.
a busy show today. There was a lot going on in the NHL, but first, before we talk about that, we're going to talk about basketball for once. And, the state of Ryerson School of Journalism isn't the best right now, but if there's one man who's trying to keep it all together and doing a fantastic job of it, it's this man we have on today. Welcome to the show, Donald Higney.
Thank you for having me on. I don't know if I can live up to that intro, but I'll do my best.
It's all right, man.
You already have.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Just by being here. Right. Sorry, go ahead, Donald.
Well, I appreciate it nonetheless. I'm happy to be here.
Exactly. Donald, listen, the Raptors. I can't stop thinking, watching the Sportsnet commercials when they talk about betting odds is what, everyone's going to repeat chance, but you're going for the underdog Raptors. And I look at the start of the year and I'm like, maybe you should change that commercial a bit.
Well, in classic Raptors fashion, they somehow pull it together, and here we are, 15-15, 500. Technically in the playoff race, technically not in the play-in games. They have pulled it together. I figured it was going to happen at some point, so I'm glad that it's happening now. Kind of at the end of the season, Raptors got 7 games left, and then it's the All-Star break. So it's been a fun watch. It's been a fun watch seeing this team pull it together.
Character. We all love it. And you know what? I remember I jokingly tweeted something I think it was Giannis was playing, Antetokounmpo was playing hurt, and I'm like, that's Raptor level character. And then he re-signed.
And then
all our hearts broke.
I wanted to believe the Giannis hype so bad, like the Masai connection. I live in Greek town. There's a plethora of great Greek food here in Toronto, a great Greek community. I really wanted to believe that all those things mattered, but at the end of the day, for Giannis, it was loyalty to Milwaukee, loyalty to the organization that has bet on him and believed on him. Is loyalty in the NBA the right move? To get the money? To get the money, absolutely. But in the long term, I mean, we'll see what happens.
So then what's the play? If Giannis isn't there, I mean, I think from the last time I checked, there were still some big names who could hit free agency. What's the play for the Raptors?
The play is probably re-signing Kyle. Let me check the Raptors cap situation real quick. So, because Kyle is making $30 million, and that makes everything more complicated. They just gave out big contracts to Fred. They gave a big contract to OG. They gave Pascal obviously has a big contract as well. So it's Kyle and it's Norm, because Norm also has a player option this year, making $11 million. And you don't really see those contracts between $8 million to $12 million anymore. Those are kind of contracts that you get. Those are contracts that you kind of need to build up to a big trade. And I'm not saying the Raptors are going to make a big trade, but you need a contract like that to kind of get it going. So yes, Kyle, free agent. Norm has a player option. Patrick McCaw is a free agent. Stanley's a free agent. Basically, the majority of the core guys the Raptors have taken care of. We know where they are. We know what they're making. We know how many years they have left. It's Kyle, which is the big wild card. And you never know what's going to happen with Kyle. You never know. You want to believe that he's going to stay. I personally believe that he's going to stay, but you never know how the season's going to play out. There was rumors that he put his house up for sale here in Toronto, but that's also considering the fact that he probably has not been back to Toronto in coming up to a year now with the pandemic. So maybe he's just making a smarter decision to downsize. Who knows? When you're starting to look at players, listings and stuff like that, you're going down a slippery slope.
No matter what sport it is, we can say that for all of it, legacy is so important. And there's nothing quite like an all-time great staying with their team for the entirety of their career. Talking about sort of the sense of if it's smart to keep Kyle, if it's smart to let him go, how important is Kyle Lowry to this city and this team?
That's a great question. Kyle, there is no Toronto Raptors championship. There is no this great run of Toronto Raptors basketball. There's no this build up of Canadian talent that we're seeing right now without Kyle Lowry. And the Raptors got Kyle Lowry by accident. They were trying to get Steve Nash, and Nash went to LA, and the Raptors had to pivot and had to find a point guard, called up Houston, who had their own point guard situation. And here we go. We got Kyle Lowry, who at that point in his career was kind of seen as a little bit of a malcontent, hothead, could never really put it together for long stretches. He backed up Mike Conley out in Memphis, ended up in Houston, and then Toronto took a flyer on him. And I mean, it's worked out. Every lineup Kyle is in with the Raptors since he has gotten here, he makes every lineup better. There's that running joke on Raptors Twitter, the Kyle and bench lineups. What Kyle and bench lineup is going to kill it this year, because it happens every year where Kyle just makes the entire team better, but he also comes to play. Like the Raptors playoff failures that happened in the playoffs. Like, yeah, some of that was on Kyle. Some of that was, not being healthy during that time. But I think those are more on DeMar than Kyle, because if DeMar wasn't shooting well, DeMar wasn't really providing anything else of value, like defensively or anything like that. Kyle's a hustle god. He's taking charges left and right. He's playing hard on defense. He's doing every single thing he can on every single possession he plays. So Toronto has this kind of blue collar working mentality that I sometimes believe, sometimes don't believe as a native of the city. If it really is true, Kyle Lowry is the embodiment of that, like hardworking, like let's show up to work, first one in, last one out mentality. And it would be a shame if he left. It really would, because there has been no greater Raptor career-wise than Kyle Lowry.
Really? Over Vince, over everyone, huh?
Well, I'm also taking into consider playoff success. Kyle, even without the championship, Kyle and DeMar led the Raptors to the farthest they had ever been, Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, they lost in 6 to the Cavs, and some of those games are a lot further apart than people like to remember, but they took 2 games off the Cavs that year. Pretty sure that was the year they won. Maybe mistaken on that. It's been a lot of playoff runs. They kind of get jumbled together, but I think it's Kyle. I think it's Kyle without a doubt. I think the heart that this man has showed, the fact that every lineup he plays in is better. He reps for the city so hard. He's been consistently good. Like, it's very hard for me to not say Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is top 3 in the Raptors for points, assists, and rebounds. You don't have a lot of those guys in the NBA where they're top 3 in those categories.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question, Donald, and it's a big thing that you've mentioned about, there's a lot of unknowns going on right now with the Raptors. So a big thing Josh Lewenberg wrote about was the idea of a transition year for the Raptors, especially the way they kind of dealt with their money, they dealt with the contracts kind of thing. One thing I kind of look on, and, it's been a big thing that Will mentioned as well about, like, look who's tuning into Toronto sports now. It's like, for example, the Leafs are really good now. So, you see a lot of more Twitter talk on that. I guess, like, from the fan perspective, how far are we from the enthusiasm of the championship to what we are now, like, moving forward to what's going to happen next season? For example, like, on my desk right now, I still have the hat. I still have the ring. Like, that's still a thing for me. But, like, I guess from the fan perspective, like, what does it look like?
I think the luster of the championship has weared off a little bit, considering how last year's playoffs went. That, like, if you're just taking it from a fan perspective and you're not really, like, rooting for one team or rooting for the other team, that 7-game series was, like, one of the most fun basketball series that, like, I have ever watched. And part of that had to do with Pascal's let's say disappointing performance in the playoffs. So I would definitely say that the luster, or like what the championship has brought to the city, has weared off a bit. But I would say that there definitely has been more, like, Leafs talk on Raptors Twitter. But since the Raptors have kind of turned it around, there's been way more Raptors talk about what this team is. I love Toronto. Like, I love Toronto sports. This isn't anything new with any other sports fans or any other sports. Toronto fans complain a lot. They complain a lot no matter what.
What can I say?
What? Toronto sports fans complaining? Never heard of it. Raptors fans complain too. Raptors fans complain about Nick Nurse's rotations. They complain about why isn't Matt Thomas getting any minutes? That was me. That was me for a very long time. Like, why isn't Matt Thomas getting any minutes? The Raptors suck on offense. This man can shoot the lights out. Let's give him a shot. So I would say since they have turned around, they have more of the confidence, I would say. And that's kind of a stupid term because it's a fan base. Like, objectively, this is a game, and you shouldn't feel any ways about it. Like, you watch the game. If they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. It shouldn't really have an impact on your life. And believe me, like, I'm a Raptors fan. It impacted my life watching those bad playoff runs. But now I have seen a Raptors championship in my lifetime. I'm like, I've seen it. Like, would I like to see them win another? Absolutely. But if they never win again, like, I'm completely okay right now because I've seen it. I've seen it in my lifetime. But I think the bigger thing that I was gonna say is, like, for a long time, the Raptors fan base has this aura of insecurity of like, oh, like, are they gonna stay? Like, is Kawhi gonna stay? Like, is DeRozan gonna stay? Is Fred gonna stay? Like, whenever a guy would come up for free agency, because historically that, like, Raptors had to trade Vince because Vince made it clear he wasn't going to resign. Raptors had to sign and trade Chris Bosh because Chris Bosh didn't want to stay. Toronto is not a free agency destination within all the purviews of the NBA, that because they're in a different country, you have to transfer over money. Lou Williams, 6th man of the year with the Raptors, said he hated playing in Toronto because he had to carry 2 bank cards. Had to have 2 phones. He had to have an American phone and a Canadian phone. Like, he loved the team and he loved, like, the fans, but the actual city itself he did not like because of the extra steps that you have to take to live as an American in Canada. So I would say that insecurity is a little bit gone. Just seeing that the Raptors have done and having faith in the organization, an actual competent organization, they have more trust in what they see.
Mhm.
Obviously, the only guy left, well, other than Lowry, but in management, the only guy left without a contract is Masai. How important, and I think we all know the answer, but how important is Masai to this organization?
It doesn't. This Raptors turnaround is in part with Masai and Kyle, but also Masai being very smart in who he has decided to be on this team, like the trades that he has made, the organizational decisions with the 905. You see, we are in this conversation. I haven't even brought up the 905 once. Like, that's surprising on my end. Like, 905 is part of my personality trait. But Masai Ujiri, this show does not run without Masai Ujiri as well. I remember they scooped him from Denver. I'm pretty sure he was with Toronto for a little bit, but they scooped him from Denver. And basically since back in 2013, they took him for a 5-year, $15 million deal. They had to replace Colangelo, who was just like signing and trading Europeans like all the time, like Andrea Bargnani, Hito Turkoglu, like not a Jose Calderon, like I love Jose, but like just signing and just getting all these European guys, and they just had to find another dude who could do it. And without Masai has made the tough decisions that have been criticized over and over again, but have worked out for this team. Firing Dwayne Casey after the best Raptors seasons in history, 59 wins, almost 60 wins, 59 wins, but choked in the playoffs. Trading away DeMar DeRozan, franchise icon DeMar DeRozan. And I think if DeMar stayed and they continued on this way, the conversation for best Raptor would be, I think it would be a little bit more, I think there would be a little bit more competition between DeMar and Kyle, because for a long time, I'll admit, I was on the DeMar DeRozan train. My argument was, this guy was so good for so long that you were able to flip him into the dude that could take the Raptors there. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, backhanded compliment, unfortunately. But he has made the tough decisions, and he has bet on guys when no one saw it, like Fred VanVleet, signing him to a 2-way deal, or the last roster spot, letting him play it out with the bench mob, drafting Pascal at 27, and people said, who? Who is this guy from New Mexico State? Just Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, like the list goes on, Bismack Biyombo, just finding these guys that have been undervalued, their careers, taking them there, giving them chances to succeed. And without him, without those guiding principles of betting on guys, but also not being too afraid to pull the plug when it's not working, has made Masai Ujiri indispensable. I'm not sure what the Raptors look like without him.
So you talk about Biyombo, who I learned is still in the NBA today. Great name. Speaking of names, I did not know Masai used to be in Denver, you said, right?
Yeah.
You guys know why they're called the Nuggets? Do we all remember that? Inside
Yes.
joke.
They're sponsored by McDonald's.
I do remember the conversation. I don't remember why they're called.
How
the
I forgot to
Nuggets.
ask Will about that is beyond me.
Ugh.
Isn't it the Gold Rush?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's the gold rush.
that's great. I love it so much.
What do you think it was at first, Adam?
I didn't know. That's why I kept asking Will. He wouldn't tell me.
You just accepted it?
eventually-
Oh, Nuggets. Okay.
It's like the Gold Rush. I'm like, thank you. I almost wanted to say, I forget what article he did, but I wanted to say, why don't you just do one explaining the names behind every single NBA team?
That'd be a good article.
Well, there you go, Don. You can take that.
Historically, the Raptors have the original Raptors have been around Toronto. Yeah.
Historically, dinosaurs lived in Toronto. Like
Yeah.
that's why we're called the Raptors. Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that, Don. So you talk about the championship because it's fresh, but at the same time, God, hasn't the last year felt like a lifetime? I want to get some of your memories of that run, because if you were in Toronto, like around the downtown, or even on a go trade, you knew the atmosphere. And the deeper they got, I remember I was on my way back from Burlington to Pickering, right? And like there were some bad nights, but this one, it might have been a home, like one of the final games. And it was like the upper end, like the lower levels. It's just everyone in the aisle, like 6 people trying to get into 1 4-seater there. It was something else. What memories do you have of that run and being around the city itself?
So it was interesting. I was taking a summer school course at the time. So I was downtown pretty consistently. And
Yeah.
I don't live that far from Ryerson campus. I live about 25 minutes away in the East End. So I was also writing about the Raptors one. And just the first game when they lose to Orlando on that miscommunication on defense between Kawhi and Marc Gasol, which you never see, 2 top-tier defensive players switch the pick and roll. They get mismatch, and DJ Augustine steps into an open 3. I was like, here we go. Same old Raptors. It doesn't matter if it's DeMar DeRozan or Kawhi Leonard. It's the same old Raptors. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't the same old Raptors. And yeah, you bring it up. There was some bad losses. When the Raptors went down 2-1 to Philadelphia, I was like, I don't know. Like Joel Embiid was doing the airplane. He was going. He was dunking. Like I was worried because I want to believe in the Philadelphia 76ers so bad. But, they had to slog it out in that 7-game series. Of course, everyone remembers that buzzer beater. I audibly yelled in my mom's ear when that happened, and my neighbors next door were going crazy, and everyone was going crazy. And the moment we made it to the conference finals, I was like, there's a shot. Like Milwaukee has been a juggernaut this year. Golden State is Golden State. They've won 2 of the last 3 years, 3 of the last 4 years. Like there's an actual chance for this team to do it, because although they have that one elite guy that can push it to the next level with Kawhi, they have enough role players and enough dudes to get it out. And even though by the time it was getting to the end when they were playing 8 guys, the only dudes coming off the bench were Fred, Norm, and Serge. Even though Fred was coming off the bench, he was basically the 5th starter because he would start the second quarters over Danny Green. I was like, there's a shot. There's a shot. And even though they went down 2-0 to Milwaukee, I wasn't worried. Like obviously that comeback, sweeping the next 4 games. Like Milwaukee had not lost more than 2 in a row, I believe, that season. They lose 4 in a row. It was something different with this team. It was something different with this run. Obviously, Kawhi was a huge part of it, but I believe part of it was like the Raptors fans like stopped believing for a little bit, especially after last year's or the 2018 playoffs. They got swept by the Cavs, and there was just like no hope. Like LeBron was just doing whatever he wanted. I'm pretty sure he spun the ball and shot a 3 in Serge Ibaka's face that playoff run. Hit a a running game winner over OG. Like no matter anything the Raptors were doing that year, it just was not working. And then to see it change and see the personnel changes, Danny, Kawhi, Mark, the growth of Pascal, the growth of Fred, the changing of Serge Ibaka's game, the changing of Norm's game, and Kyle Lowry being the steadying hand that calms all tides. I can't put it into words being there for that parade. I can't put it into words seeing that crowd, how big it was down in Nathan Phillips Square, how busy the city was. It was an undescribable experience. And the other thing that I would add is it kind of brought the country together because they had different watch parties all around the country. Like there's watch parties out in BC. I bet there was watch parties out in Quebec. There's watch parties everywhere watching the playoff run. And it was like the country was invested in this team in Toronto. And it was kind of like a win for the country, even though Toronto fans will be like it's a Toronto win, like it's a Toronto team. But it definitely, I feel like the whole country took pride, and the continued growth of Canadian basketball signifies that. The other thing that I would say was just like regular fans or people who don't even watch games were getting invested as well. Like out of my friend group, I'm the only one who likes sports, and it's weird. Like with my friend group that I've been friends with for a long time, I'm the only one who is like into sports like this much. They're not like into it as well. It's like if a game is on, they'll watch it, but like they have better things to do with their time than like worrying about if Kyle Lowry's going to leave in whatever, how many months. But they were getting invested as well. And we actually watched games together, and I was like, whoa, like we're actually like watching basketball games together. Like under any normal circumstance, like any playoff run, like we would not be doing that. So it was crazy. I can't put it into like words.
So, and you might kind of answer the last one for me here with that, but like forgetting the analysis out the window, the country thing, I'm always fascinated with people that their teams did. You talk about pain. The Washington Capitals in the NHL were notorious chokers up until they won the cup, and that was 2018, right, Lutz?
Yeah. Yes.
2018, yeah. And I have a friend, I knew as a kid, who was a big Caps fan. I asked him, like, how does it feel? He couldn't describe it. I'm wondering, and yeah, maybe you said it and you can't put it into words, but as a fan, how does it feel that your team did it? They got over the hump.
It's watching this team perform in the playoffs has been nothing short of heartbreaking. Since 2014, it's been heartbreak after heartbreak. You lose in 7 games to the Nets, to the old Brooklyn Nets with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Darren Williams, and Brook Lopez, like Raptors killer Brook Lopez. Well, not Raptors killer anymore, but losing in 7. DeMar gets his shot blocked at the end of the game. No foul call. He's on the floor crying, and Kyle's like cuddled up next to him. Like, it's okay, man. We're going to be here next year. Next year, getting swept by the Washington Wizards, a team that has not made, I want to say, the conference finals in like 20 something years, or haven't made the conference finals ever. I'm pretty sure since moving to Washington, like they have not been a good franchise, and the Raptors got swept by them with Paul Pierce, Raptor killer, moving from Brooklyn to Washington, hitting big shots, calling, oh, the Raptors don't have it this year. Raptors don't have it. They're baby food. And he was right. They were. Masai has to overhaul the whole roster. Amir Johnson, gone. Lou Williams, gone. Grievous Vasquez, gone. Let's get in Corey Joseph. Let's get in Bismack Biyombo. Let's get Patrick Patterson some more minutes. Damari Carroll, turning this into more of a defensive-minded team. And that works for a bit. They make the conference finals, even though the first round against Indiana was a 7-game series. The first round against Miami was a 7-game series. Literally both go the same way. They lose game 1, win the next 2, lose game 4, win game 5, lose game 6, win game 7. For 2 rounds, it's just like, oh, here we go. It's the same thing. And then to make the conference finals, somewhere the team has not been, was kind of the peak of Raptors, like Raptors fans, Raptors Twitter before the playoff run. It's like just knowing where this team was to go farther than they had ever gone before, even though they lost in 6. Like even LeBron had to give the Raptors fans props because the ACC at that time, still called the ACC, was full, even though they lost by like 20, I want to say, just chanting, "Let's go Raptors, let's go Raptors, let's go Raptors." Down 20, knowing they're getting eliminated and they're going home. LeBron gives the team props, saying like, like these fans in the city, like you can tell that they really love their team. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, until they won, so what's that, like 3 years, that was kind of the peak. And then to get swept in consecutive years to the Cavs, a team that has no regards and no respect for them, just toying around with the Raptors, it was tough. It was definitely tough to watch, and definitely that was kind of lowest since being swept by the Wizards. Just watching this team swept, like they try so hard in the regular season and they perform well in the regular season, but they can't put it together when the time matters. And obviously, we now know what happens: getting Kawhi, getting Danny, getting Mark, the reorganization of the roster, the emergence of Pascal. Seeing it as a fan, just watching the heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, it's like with any sport and any team, show me in the playoffs, show me when it matters. And consistently, the Raptors were not able to do that. They were not able. Pieces were there. You could see sometimes like, ooh, like the Raptors are they're teasing you a little. You can see what they could do in the playoffs, but watching them break through that window and knowing how great they are, or like realizing their own potential, like with Kawhi, a previous champion, Nick Nurse, a guy who has coached in like so many different leagues that I couldn't tell you where he's coached, in Europe and England and stuff like that. Like just the collection of this team, what they have brought, the different pieces coming together, like Kawhi, like I said, winning, Danny Green, also winner, Marc Gasol, someone who has also like come so close in the playoffs, but haven't been able to make the finals, bringing him in as a defensive anchor. Serge Ibaka didn't look so good in those last two playoff runs. Like he looked unplayable. Kyle was hurt, and even though he was trying his best and like still pushing this team to go as far as they can, like you had to question, like, is Kyle the right guy? The emergence of Pascal and Fred and Norm through the G League system, like to put it together, it was the perfect combination of all the things that the Raptors had been working on for so many years. They just needed that one right guy to bring it together.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
You've given me hope, and my team hasn't made it past the first round since I was like 5 years old. Okay, I just want to point that out. You've given me hope.
I could personally say that, like I said, like being a Raptors fan, like this whole time with a team that has consistently underperformed like its entire franchise before Masai has come, it has given me like this is going to sound like so stupid. It's given me a new lease for life and hope to see like this team, like there can actually be a winner in this city in a league that people care about. Yeah. I know it pisses off the rest of the NBA and American media that like a team from Canada won, even ignoring the fact that the majority of the players on the team are Americans, just ignoring that like out the window, like it doesn't matter. But just seeing the city come together to watch this team like go so far or make it so far, like there's an old adage, it's like if you're not competing for championships, like what's the point? And even though like a lot of those teams I would never consider championship contenders, just making it to the playoffs and like making it around, and even though they got swept like in the second round or losing in the second round, it's still good to see. It's so good to see your team have success and be like, okay, like we may not be the best team in the league, but we're better than all these other teams. Like they're not in our league. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
This leads into my last question. So we see that, after the 2-8 start, there's a big surge, not looking at the last Minnesota game, that was kind of rough to watch. But I guess in your opinion, from what's going on with this team this year and like looking beyond, what do you feel is next for the Raptors? Like, what do you want? What way do you want them to go? Like, go full young, or, try to go for it in like free agency again?
So that's a good question. So it's going to be kind of hard for them to go all in free agency, just looking at their cap situation. So for next season, they have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 guys on the roster, not including Norm Powell. Or sorry, that is including Norm Powell, but he has a team or player option, which I am very certain that he is going to decline because he's making like under market value. And he could probably make a couple more $1 million on his contract. The avenues for growth with this team is going to have to be internal again, unless they make another trade, which I don't think they will. I don't think the only way to like hit that reset button, and it's a complicated trade because of how much this guy makes, and it would be a very unpopular thing to do, would be to trade Kyle Lowry for younger assets and long-term deals, which is a bad trade. Like, it's just a bad trade. You want to see Kyle finish out his career for the sentimental reasons, but also the fact that like you're probably not going to get as much back as you would like for a player of his caliber. I know no Raptors are not going to make the All-Star team this year, but if they had played better, Kyle probably would have been that like presumptive lock as an All-Star, just giving him the credit that he has gotten like all over the years bringing this team. Like, he would have been even though like I would say this year the most consistently good Raptor has been Fred, but at peaks I would say Pascal and Kyle have been better. So the avenues for growth for this team probably aren't coming through free agency. They're not coming through the draft. I mean, they will come through the draft, but this team has put it together to the point where like I don't see them falling off in the sense of like they're going to lose like 35 of their next 50. Like, I don't think that's going to happen with this team. They're just too good and too professional. And in a season where consistency has kind of been like the highest marker of success, if you're consistently good, like you're still here, it's going to be very hard moving forward. And that's why Masai is the key. Masai staying here is the key. It's going to be hard. It's going to be the same guys kind of over and over. It's going to be the DeAndre Bemburys and the Stanley Johnsons and the Aaron Baines, free agencies in that realm, finding those guys that have been undervalued and just giving them a chance to play. Like, there's always going to be that story every year with the Raptors. It's going to be who's the next guy, who's going to be the resurgent, who's going to be the dude that no one saw coming. Like, this year it's been Stanley, it's been Yuta Watanabe, it's been Chris Boucher. Like, it's going to be those guys again, like finding those like at the market or under the market deals to just kind of supplement the roster and continuing to believe in the growth of Pascal and Fred and OG while Kyle's steadying hand is still there. It's going to be a lot of that for the next, I would say probably for the foreseeable future. And that core itself is not bad, but those pieces around it are going to have to be, it's going to have to be all hits, no misses. It's going to have to be that. And the margin of error is so slim in the NBA that if like Aaron Baines has been a bit of a miss, but he's been playing better coming off the bench with the two big lineup with Boucher, which I didn't think would work, but now is somehow working. It's going to have to be, and that's why I'm very happy that Nick Nurse is the Raptors coach, because Nick Nurse sometimes he holds things on too long and gives things too much run, like the Patrick McCaw minutes last year. But in other ways, he like flips it too early. Like, I've been clamoring for that smaller lineup since last year, seeing the three guards, OG and Pascal, like starting. And now that's been kind of working, even though they only played at one game. But going small with Pascal and OG at the front court has been better because it just gives the Raptors more space and more size and more athletic ability to kind of run down the court. But that's kind of all a side point, saying that it's going to be more of those on the margin moves, depending on if Kyle resigns, and two, how much you're signing him for. It's going to be more of those on the margin moves because Pascal's making $35 million. There's a bit of a blip in Fred's contract where he's making less in 2021, 2022. So that gives them more flexibility to try to sign someone. OG's making $16 million. Like, depending on what Kyle resigns at, it's just going to be hard to kind of get that number one guy unless you hit on someone in the draft in a way that like a bunch of teams overlooked or they suck, which I don't see that happening. Like, they may not be like championship contenders, but this is a competent organization that makes competent moves. And even if the ceiling is like a second round playoff exit against Boston or Philadelphia, that's still better than a lot of teams in the NBA. So I would say it's kind of hard to know where it's going, but in some ways it's easier just given how much money they've committed to the future of these guys. It's kind of like you have to keep your picks, or if you're going to trade your picks, like who are you going to trade them for, like who are you going to get in that way. That's the only other way that this could happen is you kind of bundle like Fred and Norm and OG. This would have to happen this year. It probably won't, but you would have to bundle kind of two of those guys and kind of like make a move for someone bigger, like a Bradley Beal, or Bradley Beal's a big free agent. Or not free agent, a big star player that people are trying to get after. I don't think Washington would do that deal, but it would have to be a trade. And you never know who's going to be in the trade market in the NBA. Like players flip teams all the time. So that's the only, Toronto could be ripe for another like Kawhi-esque trade. It's like, let's kind of get this guy and see what happens. But there's only so many times that you can do that. But also the Kawhi trade was a bit of an anomaly. We didn't know what we were getting with Kawhi. And that's kind of the other reason why the Raptors run was so memorable, is because people thought Kawhi wasn't going to play. Like we didn't know what we were getting with him with his quad. That's going on another side tangent. But the bigger point that I was getting at is the team's future is committed to these three guys, the Pascal, Fred, and OG, that the floor is there to a competent organization to raise it to the ceiling. It's all these other guys developing and finding those on the margin players, hitting on your draft picks. Kyle still being good if he decides to stay, if he leaves. I can see them being competent and still being like a playoff contender, maybe giving some teams some trouble, as Toronto has done in the past. But to move into that next tier, they need another guy, or they need like Fred to step up or something like that, which I don't see. So, I mean, the only thing I can say is we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Raptors.
Correct answer is they get Kyrie when he gets sick of
Would you really want him on the Raptors? Well, that's a whole completely different thing.
Listen, star power is star power.
Last question. I have one more question. And you brought this up earlier, and it popped into my head. You brought up Raptors 905. And some of the greatest sports organizations in the world have systems not just in their main organization, but with their junior teams or with their whatever their minor league teams. And more recently, it's been talked about with the Leafs when it comes from the NHL to the AHL to the ECHL. How important is the Raptors 905 to the organization?
If they didn't have the 905, it would be very hard for them to be in the place that they're at. So I'll give a little bit of context. I went to the Raptors 905 championship run back in, what was it, 2017, I want to say? 2017. I was at the Raptors 905 championship run. So the story is my brother at that time lived in the Netherlands, but twice a year he would come over and like stay with us. So that time he was there during the Raptors 905 run, and we convinced my mom to buy tickets back-to-back nights to go watch the 905 play. And it was crazy because DeMar showed up. I want to say Damari Carroll showed up. Random name drop. Maybe you guys will know it. Maybe you won't. Maybe Daniel, you'll know it. Nerlens Noel showed up out of nowhere. Like he wasn't connected with the Raptors. I think at that point he was on the Mavericks, I want to say. And the Mavericks weren't even in Toronto, but he flew up for the 905 game, which was super weird. Like I couldn't explain that. But the 905, I'm looking at their record right now. So the second year that they existed, they won the D League championship. And I was there that game. It was Fred and Pascal and Bruno Caboclo, one of the only picks for the Raptors during this run that just has not hit in the way that they wanted it to. And I'm not a developmental guy. I'm not a guy who looks at a player and is like, this is also because I just don't have a lot of experience in this stuff. I'm not a guy who looks at a player and is like, that guy's going to be really good. That's just not who I am. I just kind of take it as it is. And if they grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. But with Fred, I saw like how he saw the court and how he was setting up other guys that like, this dude is going to be a rotational player. I didn't think he was going to be at this level as a competent not competent, a good starting guard who hits big shots despite his size. Like you can really see the Kyle Lowry in him, but it's still smooth in the way that he can, even though he doesn't finish all the way to the basket, he's still smooth in that sense of getting space and stuff like that. So I would say that 905 run and having the 905 there, because it's not just a training ground for players, it's a training ground for coaches and stuff like that. Like Jerry Stackhouse is a longtime NBA vet, and he got his first crack at coaching with the 905. He was able to turn that into an NCAA job. If I remember it correctly, he is the head coach at Vanderbilt. So it's a training ground for these guys that have that one. They're like the Masai Ujiris that kind of get in at the ground level and work their way up. Masai is very good at giving back in the sense that like he gives more people chances to succeed and try again. And you see it a couple times a year. Like if you really pay attention to like NBA news, a couple 905 guys every year, if it's not with the Raptors, it's with another team and they get another chance somewhere else. Like the latest 905 story has been Chris Boucher. Like Boucher was with the 905. He won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, in the same season. I may be wrong about that, but I for sure know he won Defensive Player of the Year. When the Raptors traded all their guys away and they had like 8 dudes available when they went for Marc Gasol, they converted Chris Boucher into a rest of the year deal, was able to play like some minutes and then got a little bit more minutes last season. And now he's been the Raptors' consistently good big man other than Pascal. Like if the Raptors were a little bit better, he should be the 6th man of the year. That's probably going to Jordan Clarkson. But having the 905 there and sending guys down, and the prevalence of the G League in today's game, I want to say there's only 2 dudes on the Raptors roster that don't have G League experience. Just having those guys and having those guys willingly go down to the G League, like Stanley went down to the G League last year, I believe, because his game was a little bit upset or not right before COVID hit. Having those guys who are willing to go down to the G League and willing to kind of, it shouldn't be a humbling factor, but it's a bit of a humbling factor because these dudes are trying to fight to make the roster and you kind of already have that guaranteed spot. But having that facility there to train guys and get them more run before under good coaching and good organizational leadership that stems from the Raptors to bring them to the team, and they know exactly what to do, they know how to play already, is just an advantage that few teams in the NBA have really like cracked at. Like the only teams that really use the G League to their advantage are Toronto and Miami and San Antonio a little bit. But Toronto, I would say, has been the model organization for like G League development since they won back in 2017. There's always some dude coming out of the G League from the Raptors who's like killing it.
You know what, Donald? I feel like I actually know a bit about basketball now. Yeah, we definitely want to have you back when we go closer to the end of the NBA season, see how the Raptors are doing, if you're kind enough to come back on, because you've been great today. You've been very generous with your time. We are very, very bad at sticking to time limits here, as you can tell.
I just honorable mention questions.
I just peeped the time.
We asked 20 to 30 minutes. I think we're about exact same flow. Seriously though, Donald, thank you very much for coming on. We want to give you some time now to plug your stuff because you are with the Eye Opener. Will is graduating next year, so there's a bit of an opener for the sports editor, and I've heard through the grapevine that maybe you're going to be
I won't reveal my plans yet, but Eye Opener is great. I love writing for the Eye Opener. Have some work coming out for them in the near future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Eye Opener, album reviews for CJRU. Now have some folio stuff going on. I'm considering making my Twitter bio jack of all trades for multiple news organizations. Like at this point, I'm writing more about sports than I have ever. Also a reporter for The Bridge, local Toronto paper, writing about transit issues and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. The amount that I still know about basketball, considering how much I've actually paid attention this season, it's absolutely nuts. But yeah, got my hands in a lot of hats these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, seriously, thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can have you back in the near future.
I would absolutely love to be back. This is a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome.
We will be back in a second when we talk about the Leafs and the Habs. Sidney Crosby hit 1,000 games. Connor McDavid 500 points in as many games as Crosby. The Oilers are good again suddenly. All that in a second. We will be back. Lads, great time with Donald. We're definitely going to have him back on. I just love all the people in our program. They're all great. Right. Now to get to the hockey, and we'll talk about, it doesn't feel like there's enough made about this last night because Matthews and McDavid were just putting on shows last night. 1,000 games is much more appreciated by players than it is to the fans, though Sidney Crosby hitting 1,000 games just hits a bit harder, Alex.
It does. It does. Because I think, well, first off, he's a generational talent. Mm-hmm. And obviously, because it's generational, it doesn't happen that often. But I think also, you look back, especially earlier on in his career with all the concussions and stuff like that does take a toll on a player. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the fact that he hit 1,000, I think is still a huge accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Dan.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. I like the points Alex brought up in terms of generational talent and the concussion issues, because if it wasn't for the concussions, he would have hit this long time ago, these 1,000 games. But at the same time, and I don't know if you guys get this feeling, but for me, when you mentioned generational talent, I was already a fan before he was drafted. But the thing is, it's weird. It's like people keep mentioning he's 33, and when it comes to that like type of figure, it's weird to think about the NHL without Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense to you. Like, I know that players come and go, but it's just weird. It's like, I'm not saying that he's the exact same player, but maybe this is what I'm feeling fans kind of had in like 1999. They're like, wait a minute, Wayne Gretzky's not going to be there.
That's a very good point. This is a David Amber tweet, by the way. Tonight, Crosby plays his thousandth NHL game. I think he's a top 5 player of all time. Ridiculous resume. 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Olympics. I'm assuming he means gold there. A world championship, a World Cup, World Juniors, 2 Hart trophies, 2 Conn Smythe, 2 Rocket Richards, 2 Art Rosses. How does he only have 2 Harts, by the way, guys? He's only 33. And I'm going to ask you guys, is Sidney Crosby a top 5 player all time?
Daniel?
Yes, I think
yes?
so.
Okay. Where does he rank in the 5?
I don't know. It's a weird thing because, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing necessarily, but it's kind of hard when we think about these lists and then people a lot older than us will say like, hey, how did you not have that guy on that list? Like, oh, I don't know. He retired 25 years before I was born, or, footage of the 70s or 60s. It's really hard to find.
Wayne Gretzky retired. So his retirement ceremony was the month after I was born. Alex, Sidney Crosby, is he a top 5 player?
Yes. I think for me, I'd put him in either 4 or 5. I really have to think about it. I'm probably leaning toward 4 if I'm being honest. Like, for me, this is my opinion. It's Gretzky number 1, Lemieux at 2 or 3, and then Crosby at 4.
So I don't have him top 5. I'll tell you why. It's obviously Wayne and Mario number 1, and Wayne is first.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what's coming.
I have Gordie Howe at 3rd.
Okay.
Because I don't think any of us realized, and again, it is before we actually got to play. But don't forget, this is the great before Wayne.
I thought you were going to say Patrick Waugh, because like I know for like the 100 greatest players, they also included goalies here and there.
Wait a second. Number 4, I have Nicholas Lidstrom. Bobby Orr should be there because he revolutionized the position. It's just Nick Lidstrom. We will never see a defenseman at that level win a Norris Trophy at 40 ever again. I think he was just on a completely different level. And we don't respect goalies.
I know. Sorry, I spoiled it.
Revolutionized the goalie position. Every goalie now plays the way they do because of Patrick. And you know what?
What?
He said, "Screw you to the Olympics." All right, like
he played once. It's just I'm just saying, this is from speculation, not from me, because I couldn't report at that time. But he didn't have to play every game in 1998.
What are you trying to say to me?
I'm saying, there's a lot of balance on that team. Like, you had Brodeur and Curtis Joseph as your backups.
Yeah, the backups. Stop it. Anyway,
But yeah,
honorable mentions, though, I think we need to talk about Ovechkin because of his goal scoring, like a bit of disrespect to him. Sid, obviously, and I'm not saying this just because I am a Canadiens fan, but we talk about goal scoring. Maurice Richard was a 50-goal guy in the 40s.
Mhm.
Like, he is like the hero of French hockey. Like, I think people need to remember, like, just how important he was to the game of, like, the sport itself. And of course Bobby Orr, because it's Bobby Orr. I mean, what was it when? Listen, say what you want about Don Cherry and Bobby Orr's people, like, outside the game, but there's a really, really good thing from Cherry at the beginning of Bobby Orr's book that if there was a league above the NHL, that's where Bobby Orr would have played. And I think all of these guys we just mentioned would also be in that league.
Before we move on, I have my list now.
Okay.
I found it. I was able to develop it as we spoke, because you guys convinced me.
Okay, and then when you're done that, give me your favorite Crosby moment. Then Alex, you can do the same.
Oh yeah, I'll be quick. So Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby,
Okay.
Orr,
Okay.
and then tied for fifth is Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh.
You don't put Gordie Howe in the top 5 players of all time.
I don't know, but that's the thing. Okay, so like when you think about it, I know. That's what I think about. It just gets a bit more murky because
He was Wayne Gretzky's.
you could say like he's the best in terms of. Are you gonna leave? Okay. I think the best in terms of like the best that ever was. That's like Bret Hart. Sorry, but but I think like when it comes to my own personal list, it's the kind of thing I've talked about before, where it's like I'll see the clips of Gordie Howe, and I think he's an amazing player. Like I think from the standard of what people say is the talent of the NHL is, of course, Gordie Howe's in the top 3, but of my own personal list where I actually got to watch it, because Bobby Orr is a bit of a stretch, because I actually did get to watch like a few games with him because those are easier to find. But I think with Gordie Howe, it's just too far from how I am as a fan to where he is now that I don't put him on my personal list, but he deserves to be on the standard NHL list.
you make a good point for that last point you made, because I think we have, it's the debate that's literally had every year. Jordan versus LeBron, Brady versus whoever. To be honest, I don't know football that well, so Brady versus whoever. And they're having the debate in tennis, right? It's so difficult. The eras, especially in hockey, man. Like if there's a sport that the eras are like completely different, it is hockey. So it's so difficult making these lists.
I actually had a childhood memory I just came up with. Then we'll go to the Crosby memory. Sorry, I'm delaying this, but I remember when I was like a kid, and I don't know why. Sometimes when they're like, oh yeah, that guy is a kid. He doesn't really kind of know too much about hockey. I think it was a teacher in my elementary school where I said Martin Brodeur, and this is before I knew Adam. So I said Martin Brodeur is the best goalie ever. And then the guy's like, oh yeah, because you're so young, you haven't watched Hasek in his prime. I'm like, yeah, of course. When I like started watching hockey, Dominic Hasek was like 36, like 35.
I mean, Alex, if you want, why Daniel's telling us his favorite Sidney Crosby moment, if you want to make your top 5 while we're doing this, go ahead. Let's have this debate, because I think it's blasphemy to not have Mr. Hockey in the top 5. But Daniel, your favorite moment from Sidney Crosby's career?
For me, and I think it's just, I'll have actually split of 3, to be honest. 1 and then like 2 honorable mentions. I think number 1.
What a surprise!
I guess number 1 is when he made the World Junior team as a 16-year-old, because already there was that much hype with him, and it's kind of weird seeing him wear number 9. To be honest, that was always kind of odd to me. But yeah, like just like as a kid, witnessing the fact that when people say like, you're witnessing a generational talent going up in the ranks, and I think when you hear that, that's what started of me saying like, yeah, I actually was a legitimate fan his entire career. The second one is his NHL debut, because I remember, I have the card of it. I have to find it, but it's when he's just sitting on the bench and then Lemieux is just beside him. And it was a crazy thing to me, where it's just, you think about the amount of stuff the Penguins have gone through financially in terms of the talent that's been lost on that team. And then they get Sidney Crosby. I know they got Malkin and they got Fleury, but Fleury wasn't really, like, he was there, but he kept getting pushed back and forth between Cape Breton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Pittsburgh. And then Malkin, you don't see him. He's in the KHL for quite a bit before he comes to the NHL. But yeah, like, just seeing that picture where Lemieux, I actually got to see the tail end of him. He's on the cover of NHL 2002, the game I've played the most out of all the NHL games. It was a crazy feeling for me. Third, and it's not really one that maybe is on like a top 10 list, like anywhere, but it's when he comes back from, I think, his first major concussion and he plays the third line. This is against the Islanders, and he still, despite the limited minutes, dominates. He has 2 goals.
Mm-hmm. Alex, go ahead.
I only have one.
Good, thank you. That's what I asked for.
For me, it has to be the golden goal. And I know he's not in a Penguins jersey, but I think it was so impactful, especially for me. Like, I mean, I was 10 at the time. I was just kind of getting into hockey. And just to see that, I don't know what words to use to describe it. Like, it was just so over the top. Like, it was so like impactful, and it shaped a lot of things.
The greatest the greatest Canadian sports moment of our lifetime is the golden goal. And I was going to say the golden goal too, because I don't think you can beat it. Though, to give another one, I'm actually going to
just one.
Daniel, here, Daniel.
I'll give 2 then.
The
dueling hat-trick game versus Ovechkin is just so great for me, because it's just it epitomizes. You cannot talk about his career without talking about his rivalry with Ovechkin. It's how lucky we are to see 2 people of that level, and we're seeing that with the next generation with McDavid and Matthews. McKinnon is there as well, by the way, I must say. And also his first game against the Canadian team, his boyhood team. Welcome to the Crosby Show, Canada, when he absolutely humiliated Jose Teodoro. Has to be mentioned. All right.
I remember that game. I was watching it. Jocelyn Thibault was in net for the Penguins.
It's just not right. Congratulations to Sid the Kid. It's been a pleasure to watch you, and it will continue to be. A younger player, some younger news. Nico Hischier, out of nowhere, I might add, is the newest captain of the New Jersey Devils. And I'm guessing Daniel has put this here. The first non-defenseman captain since Zach Parise in 2012. Andy Green, how are you?
I don't know. It's like, I think it's a step in the direction where the Devils have been kind of wishy-washy with this quote-unquote new talent that they're bringing forward. You've mentioned Andy Green. The captain before him was Bryce Salvador. And, these are 2 guys that they're not necessarily, like what Tim McCaff would say, sexy players in a way that, they're not the all-star caliber guys, not the guys who are going to be on the front of a cereal box. But those were like Lou Lamoriello type of guys that they were always called on to be captain, which I was surprised. And I know I'm talking about Parise more than Hischier right now, but it's like kind of thing where that was a surprise, because like Parise wasn't really considered like a Lou type of guy at the time. He is now, because he almost went to the Islanders despite the contract. And I think this is a step in direction now where it's like you get away from what was built during the Lou Lamoriello era to what the Devils want to establish now with this new identity that, yeah, definitely they're playing a lot different. They have the pieces that they could probably do something. And, they've been decent this year. They haven't been what we thought they were going to be, like looking at what they finished last year. So I think they're going to be okay. I think that maybe a morale booster, but it's great to see. I think looking back on that draft, people are gonna say he shouldn't have been first overall, but he still has a lot of room to grow.
Mhm. Alex.
Yeah, I mean, he's what, 22, right?
Around there.
Because he's in his first year of his second contract, so it should be somewhere around there.
22.
He's how old?
22.
Oh, okay. So he's young. We've seen young captains. We've seen young captains in the past before. I think there's more. I think he is the future of that team. Like him and Jack Hughes are that team, and he was an assistant before, which should say something about his leadership in the room. And I know, they have other guys like, let's say, Kyle Palmieri, but his future with this team, we don't know what his future is, right? He's a UFA at the end of the year. That was the obvious one for me. I think if we had this discussion last year, I would have said Kyle Palmieri would be your captain if he's here long term.
I think the Oilers, by the way, should target him in the offseason.
There's a lot of players the Oilers
they have
should
money.
target.
Yeah, but he's the guy no one really talks about. He's better than
Right.
Paul. Just he can have score goals.
Yeah, so I think it'll be an interesting moving forward, though. We'll see how it turns out.
Rachel Dory liked the move. She was a big part of she was a part of the Devils organization not that long ago. So if somebody who knows those players well says that it's a good move, I believe it's a good move.
I'm surprised Alex didn't say Mackenzie Blackwood should be captain.
No respect for goalies. The NHL.
I thought they're not allowed to be goalies. I thought captains. I thought we had this discussion.
Yeah, ever since Roberto Luongo broke the system.
Yeah, because the NHL hate fun. No respect. No respect. Speaking of no respect, Adam Henrique has been placed on waivers.
Yes.
I believe he cleared.
Yeah, he cleared just as Donald joined.
No one's picking that up. It's $5.8 million.
Mammoth of a laughs at the contract. Guy's a really good two-way player, but I mean, Daniel, the Ducks veterans need to be accountable because they are not getting any scoring and they are falling out of that playoff race by the game.
Yeah, I already kind of knew it that they kind of had to move some money, and it's kind of really like Adam Henrique's one of those just contracts that's going to drag on. That I'm not saying he's a Franz Nielsen who also was placed on waivers today, but it's one of those things that a lot of fans especially, and you can just look at the Eric Stevens articles on The Athletic, the amount of comments that are there. Like it's, you could be talking about something benign like Ryan Getzlaf's favorite sandwich, and it's like, man, and then the comments would be like, yeah, Bob Murray, these are the moves he did, and like we're losing confidence in him, and it's just that feeling where what are you trying to build with this team now? Because you have a lot of young talent coming up, but at the same time, anyone not named Ryan Getzlaf who's over the age of 22, you shouldn't be getting the money you're getting if you're not like, Josh Manson, for example. I think it's still going to hurt them that Cam Fowler, Jakob Silverberg, someone like Adam Henrique who are not performing are still having these long-term deals that I don't think that you could move the way you do traditionally, especially with the flat cap. And I think this was maybe a wake-up call to Adam Henrique that he's just not producing. He's a great locker room guy. Everyone's spoken about that in New Jersey, in Anaheim. But you just have to kind of get to a point now where it's like, what do you really have with this team? And I know I made the joke that I said they're going to make the playoffs. It's looking pretty...
Oh, now it's a joke. Now it's just a joke.
Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah, not a projection. But for sure, that's something to think about, that when you have these big contracts going and these guys are not performing, it's just what's your next step? And it's a long season, but I just don't know anymore because it's just a weird thing with the contracts, with the guys in their prime, and like the stability you're going to have when you eventually those other top tier young guys come in.
Not a great sign, Alex, when the Anaheim Ducks are last for goals for. That's 34 they've gotten.
No, it was so weird. It was I don't know about you guys. I did not see Adam Henrique going on waivers at all coming. No. I know the team hasn't been performing well. I mean, the team is practically John Gibson, and that's pretty much it, unfortunately, at the moment. Why can someone explain to me why they just haven't just tried Trevor Zegras yet? Like, I know maybe you're not going to throw him into your top 6. That might not be the smartest move, but let's see what he can get done. Like, he looked pretty dominant at the World Juniors. I know he's playing in in San Diego now. I don't know how many.
9 points in 8 games, 4 goals.
I think you might want to just try him.
Good player. Easily the most dominant player at that World Juniors. And his confidence. Love it. Never forget.
Wait, you know guess who's playing in the forward group? David Backes.
I forgot about him. Waivers, you love to see them. Unless you're Eric Comrie and you keep getting claimed, he's going back to Winnipeg for like the 4th time. I feel so bad for this guy, Alex.
This is why do they keep doing this to him?
I hope he hasn't gotten rid of his place in Winnipeg.
Yes, I agree.
Don't stay there too long. We don't know.
Yeah, honestly, Winnipeg. Okay, this is odd. I just pulled up their cap friendly page. They have 4 goalies in their main roster. They have Hellebuck, Laurent Brossoit, and Anton Forsberg, and then they have Eric Comrie in their taxi squad. Why?
They're like the NHL GM mode teams that for some reason you just can't stop getting goalies. Like I ever get that problem? I get that problem sometimes.
No, I've never once faced that problem.
I've seen that in my.
Or like I draft like 5 goalies the draft.
Oh no.
Like if you see the elite medium or medium starter, then like and it's like the fourth to 7th round, like
take them.
I take them.
Fair enough. I don't know what to say about that. It's been a real mess for Eric Comrie's career, almost as much as intense as the outdoor game was yesterday. They finished the first period, and the ice was not great. Like the ice was not great. There was like this image, and there was just a chunk of it missing. And Landeskog is like Gabriel Landeskog. It's like, guys, like, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? Apparently, the players wanted to keep playing. The NHL were like, yeah, no. The game got pushed back after the first period, kept that in play until 12 p.m. Eastern last night. No, is it p.m. or
AM.
Honestly, it's so dumb. Like, can we just?
AM.
I need to go on a tangent here, okay? Night is p.m. Morning, a.m. It's dumb. It's midnight. It's stupid. Let's fix it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I hate it so much. So much. Why is it that midday is PM? You don't go 12 p.m. then 1 to p.m. No, it should roll over. It's so dumb. I hate it so much.
I didn't think we'd get into this.
It's dumb.
It should also be ABs and PIMs, not AM and PM.
Am or FUM.
PIMs.
Listen, let's not give the NHL any crap here because they tried something new. It looked amazing, even at night. It looked so pretty, did Lake Tahoe.
You make a good point. We shouldn't give the NHL crap, but I saw so much of it on Twitter yesterday. And it's from the exact same type of people who had said, oh, the NHL doesn't try anything new. And listen, I'm on board with the NHL trying new things here. But like, you can't say you want to try something new and then when it fails, oh, they shouldn't do this. It doesn't work. That's not how these things work. Like, you hit and you miss. It's not like this was a miss. Unfortunately, I mean, at least they got to finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying it's times like these to learn to love again?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes tonight, Daniel, when Boston play, and then see how the ice fares then. It should be a little better later in the day. Hopefully the Sun won't just say, yeah, no, you're not playing hockey today.
I remember Darren Dreger, he commented on it, and the comments were hilarious. We're like, okay, Darren, we understand you make a backyard rink every year.
What did he say?
Oh, really?
He mentioned how, oh, yeah, I never put paint or lines on it because the sun will just absorb. The heat from the sun will just be absorbed by the paint. So I never do that for my backyard
That's a good point.
And then people's comments like, okay, Darren.
It's an NHL game, idiot. We kind of need those. God, what's he doing?
We love Darren, though. He's not an
Let's
idiot.
talk to Paul Marner for a bit. Sorry, Darren. I like you. It's just Stop. You have to brag. Yeah, we know you make a lot of money because you're an insider. Stop it. Jeff Merrick doesn't just brag about it, even though for some reason they keep having segments of his kids and Ron McLean in the backyard. But
Are we gonna do brand? No, we're not doing brand wars now. We love every face of the sports.
As I am the current reigning defending champion of the 2-in-1 podcast quiz, I showed these guys before we recorded. Check out the YouTube portion if you want to see this, but I have made a championship belt that is cut out of a Pepsi and Drumsticks ice cream box. So I am the champion. It's being kept together by a lint roller strip on each end. Hopefully, when's the next quiz going to begin?
I don't know. Maybe like I don't know. You guys liked it a lot, so it gave me a lot of encouragement to maybe make one a lot sooner than I thought. I thought I was gonna just do like
maybe stay away from Jacob Yerjabek, by the way.
Okay, I knew that one was gonna. When I saw that fact, and then I'm like, I needed to put it in. But yeah, we should do another one. Like maybe it should be a March quiz. I don't know.
And oh, okay. I thought for some reason I thought it was March, and I'm like, so I get to keep this for a year? Sounds good.
It's crazy. February's almost done. I didn't even know.
I know, right? 2021's going by like a blitz. And
can I tell you a crazy thing about time? The trade deadline was like 3 days from now was a year ago.
Jeez. Wow.
Because I'm writing a article right now of Zach Parise being nearly traded, and I'm like, whoa, that was a year
ago,
February 24th, 2020.
A lot longer than that. The years go by like a blitz. What's faster? Slowly, the opposite of a blitz. What's quicker, the month of February or Connor McDavid storming down the ice? Because my God, I tweeted after the first Austin Matthews goal, I think it was, when it was in before Carey even knew it. It was so good. Poor Carey Price. They're so much better. I tweeted just give Matthews the MVP.
No.
I watched the Oilers game and be like, no. I can't wait that for the next decade, we're going to have this goddamn Matthews versus McDavid debate, just like Crosby and Ovechkin. I don't know the last time I watched such a performance by a player that I did with Connor McDavid last night. The Flames are bad. We're going to talk about them next episode, I think. So I'm going to talk about the Oilers now. Mike Smith is 4-0 since coming back. The savior. A .940 save percentage. Now, the other day, McDavid, by the way, also hit 500 points already in the same amount of games as Sidney Crosby, 369. Nice. Less than 400 games.
When is he going to be in our top 5? When is he going to be in our top list?
We'll see. We'll see. You already have him above Howe, I bet. Ridiculous.
Oh, no.
And you know what? They've been getting the depth scoring, and surprise, surprise, he was unlucky to start the season, but Jesse Puljujarvi has become a major asset to that team. Incredible. Thoughts on the Oilers, lads, and they are playing very, very well all of a sudden. And I can kind of see now this is maybe the Oilers team that we all expected. Then again, without McDavid last night, they have like one goal. But at the same time, we can't really give them crap for that because they have him and we don't.
So I just want to point this out. You're talking about Mike Smith.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, but last year he started the season 5-4-1, .926 save percentage. You remember?
He was good.
Remember that?
Not bad.
Just putting this up here. He finished the season 19-12-6, .902.
Yeah, but right now we can do it.
It doesn't last.
We're living in the now.
The argument I'm making is it won't last, and we said the same thing last year.
But for now,
okay, for now it's great. You're right. You're right.
And I think right now we should give them the time to say, Gino, they've been playing really well.
They've been playing damn well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the way they've been kind of figuring things out, because I was looking back on stats from last year, like they weren't super bad. They were pretty okay, pretty decent finishing it up. I think it's just once they get to the play-in round and all of that with Chicago, that's when things really kind of said, all right, here's the Oilers again. So
they could.
so I think this season they it was kind of iffy at the beginning of it, but then they're starting to pick up some heat. The guys that I've mentioned it in the summer too, in our summer episodes, that these are guys that you have to ask them to step up, because this is what you're gonna do with the reality of the cap era. Like, you need an Ethan Bear to develop. You need a Jesse Pujärvi to two things: actually want to play for the Oilers,
Yes,
and actually live up to that potential. So far, that's been good.
You know who else has been pretty good? 16 points in 20 games. Tyson Barrie. Don't ask what his plus minus is. -1, whatever. But when Draisaitl, I think last episode when he's like, well, we beat Toronto and Montreal, what does that make us if they're number 1 and 2? I kind of laughed it off. But I mean, and like let's be honest here. We need to remember that the Jets have 3 games in hand and Montreal have 4. We'll see how it goes, though. They have a winning record. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. They've won 3 straight. And do you know what? Right now, they're in that position, and these wins versus the Flames are huge, because we've talked about every night is the 4-point night. The Canucks are still only at 17 points. The Sens are not looking great. We'll see if they win tonight versus Montreal, because it could happen. But you know what? These games are so big for the Oilers because, do you know what? They're creating the separation from the teams they need to.
Right.
Like, he needs to learn to just shoot the puck instead of going through his legs every time he has a chance. But, like, credit to the Oilers. I'm going to give it to them. You know what? They deserve it. You know what? McDavid is disgustingly good. Like, I just want to, fangirl over him for a second. He is – I don't know what I was thinking. Like, no disrespect to McKinnon. He's still a top 3 player.
Mm-hmm.
But
backtracking here.
I'm not backtracking. I'm admitting I was wrong.
Yeah.
Like, he's so good. I feel blessed to be able to watch him, and I so wish we were in arenas right now, because I would seriously be going to every game he was in Montreal, just trying to sit back and enjoy the fact that he is in this league. He is incredible.
The no-look goal.
Oh, he's just ridiculous. Oh, it's just he was having fun. Normally, it takes McDavid a while to really enjoy his goal. He's like, I scored. Yeah, I'm kind of happy. But he was enjoying himself last night. And do you know what? That's what you want from Connor. I hate seeing the best player in the world moping, because nothing happens with him. It's great. It's must-watch TV, and we have some TV news regarding the NHL. I reported on headlines last night on Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada. ESPN are rumored to be part of the new U.S. TV deal. Of course, they not fully, but they will be a part of it. I've joked that ESPN hate hockey, but this is great news. And apparently, the deal would actually go past the current CBA. Fun fact.
We've had this discussion before about the network deal, because I think they said NBC. There were rumors that their sports channels were going to be shut down. So to hear that ESPN is going to have at least part of the deal doesn't necessarily come as a surprise, but I think it's really good news for the league, because what ESPN does really well is advertise their products. Mm-hmm. And I think, considering the NHL, I wouldn't consider them that great at advertising their product. I think the partnership with ESPN could be huge.
Mm-hmm. Talk about bad advertising. No one knew there was the outdoor game in Regina last year. You can't even remember because they weren't advertising it. Daniel, ESPN, listen, they haven't been in great shape over the past couple of years. A lot of firings, but there is still – the U.S. TV deal has been so important for the NHL, and this is nothing but good news continuing that, eh?
Yeah, 2 things I have on this, and it's funny because this refers back to Donald, because we're both in the same business class right now, where we actually recently had an assignment on the revenue of Disney and how ESPN does with advertising. They do pretty well. So I'm pretty happy that they have a bit of a stake in this again. The NHL is going to get a bit more coverage, which I really like, especially in those American markets. Covering the Wild, I think, has been an anomaly of what I've seen in other teams, because just the state of Minnesota is crazy. Like, what I'm finding, like talking to other journalists too who actually live in Minnesota, is that they'll cover people in the NCAA and like who coming up for the team, but that's not the case if you think about Arizona, if you think of Southern California. So that's an important thing. Second thing, and is more of a child nostalgic thing, maybe we'll have ESPN hockey games again, and there'll be more competition between the video games, that maybe the EA Sports will go, wait a minute, we need to put more into our studio.
I can only hope, Daniel. I can only hope.
That's not going to happen.
Can't wait for them to put the CHL back in next year, the new feature. Okay, I thought I was doing good with the transitions, but I can't do it for Nashville here. More news about Nashville and their players that are possibly being dealt. There are 3 untouchables here. Roman Josi, makes sense. Brian Ellis, makes sense. Pekka Rinne.
Legacy.
I thought that exact same thing, and do you know what? I'm perfectly okay with it.
Yeah.
Perfectly okay with it.
They're good in goaltending for the future. Not this year, but for the next few years, they'll be okay.
If you let him walk, that's like Berger playing 7 games in St. Louis. That's your legacy guy. That's big in the community. I'm 100% okay with Pekka Rinne staying. But, thoughts on the fact that we talked about that if there are players that were going to be difficult to move, or could you even move them? Well, we know at least that there are 2 of them that are going to stay, that are the big tickets, and that's Ellis and Josi.
Do you think Ellis Pekka Rinne plays past this season? He's 38.
If he gets like a backup role or something, I don't know. Like, he's kind of transitioned into that already.
Right. He has. Yes. He signed that 2-year. He signed the 2-year deal.
Like, Craig Anderson's still around.
Right. Yeah. Kind of, I guess.
Yeah, kind of.
Listen, the name that stands out to me, and I think we were talking about it somewhere, is Dante Fabro.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the list. Even Philip Forsberg not being on the list is a really big surprise to me.
I don't think so. It wasn't for me, because he's up next year, and if there's no point playing, like, really trading someone unless you're going to get good value. And I'd argue, of the guys who are looking to move, I think Forsberg gets you the most. I think what we should keep in mind as well is the moment Canucks Twitter is like, go get Dante Fabro. We have to remember with trading is there are guys saying, like a few years ago when Mark Bergevin said, the only guys I'm not trading are Weber and Carey Price. It doesn't mean a GM is actively trying to shop them. You could just say, listen, I'll listen to the offers, right? Though it is a bit concerning to hear, because for years it was okay with trading PK. Years isn't like he was there for like a decade. You know what I mean? Like, during that span, it was okay that they got rid of PK because they had Dante Fabro. Beside that, I mean, fair enough. As much as Yossi's deal sucks, I think nowadays the level of defenseman that he is, I think you could move him, though he would have to take money back, and who wants to do that right now? It'd be complicated.
Well, they're gonna have to do that for like half the deals they have, anyways.
Yeah, especially the centerman. We've talked about that. It's a mess.
Yeah, I think a big thing is when we mentioned Dante Fabro is maybe it's just the vision of the team has really changed from the time they drafted him to now, because I remember they want to be extremely patient with him, that they let him go to school, that they let him play here gradually, and then let him be fully immersed in the lineup, because he went 17th in the draft, but he was considered a steal at that point. So it was something really surprising there. And to not have him on that list is, again, like, that doesn't mean he's going to be dealt, but it's just kind of a weird thing you don't give to what, in my view, is a young asset that if you want to transition to the new era, you would want to keep around, especially someone who's a bit more polished. He's younger, but he's a lot more polished than all of the younger guys they have in the system.
It is a young defenseman who has not even played 90 games in the NHL. He's at 85, so there's a lot. There's a player there.
What would you get for Matt Duchene? I'm just like, we're just throwing ideas out there.
I don't know. Well, you're probably gonna have to retain. I don't even know, to be honest. Like I'd have to sit down and hard think about what in the world someone would like length, because the thing is flat cap, length of contract, size of contract. Is he going to work in your system? It's not that Matt Duchene is necessarily a bad player, but it's going to be tough justifying that.
Yeah, because he was paid to be that guy for them, but he's just like, I wrote this in my previous article. Sorry for the amount of plugs I have of myself today, but last night Luke Cunnin was the first line center, a guy who's not even a natural center. Playing with Mikael Granlund and Philip Forsberg.
You think right away, I'm thinking, all right, he would ideally, I would tackle it from an approach of you try and swap players that need a change of scenery. And I think, okay, who needs centerman? Who has cap space? Well, right now they don't have any, but they're going to have $8 million off the books because I don't think you're re-signing Taylor Hall. Maybe, and I mean maybe, Buffalo, but beside that, yeah, you really, that's off the top of my head. You'd have to really sit down and think about who would take him in that thought. And Johansson, I don't even know. It's difficult. But again, like Forsberg, you shouldn't have any problem dealing. If you deal Arvidsson, I would line up to get that.
That's a guy. That's a player that I could see like a playoff contender getting him at like the deadline or something.
Can't wait for Colorado to get him.
That's the team I was thinking of.
He would be really good there. Just a little pain in the ass and skate and score. I love him so much. All right, main event, a ring-a-ding-ding. Haven't done that in a while. Leafs Habs played last night, 5-3 win for the Leafs. Story, Austin Matthews is really good and is going to score 50 goals. I mean, he's locked up the Richard. It's incredible to watch him play right now. Steve Dangle tweeted he's watching the best Leaf of his lifetime. And maybe if it's a bit premature, say if you want to say that right now, we could be looking at the best Maple Leaf of all time. And it is coming from a Canadiens fan. It hurts to watch, but it's also it's a spectacle to watch this guy.
I think there's a legitimate argument to be made purely based on skill. Obviously, he's been here for 5 years. He hasn't made it past the first round, so it's hard to declare him the greatest Maple. If he wins the Cup in Toronto, greatest Maple Leaf of all time, no question. Like it's so.
Then Felix Potvin.
Yeah, like it's difficult not to justify it. I know there's guys who have won multiple cups, but he is so good. He makes it look easy. No, nothing. He just makes it look easy.
Some would say he's good. Some would say he's good, Daniel.
Yes, I think, man, like I don't know, like it's the kind of thing where it's just let me just enjoy this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just that argument that I love that it's happening now because of all those times where he missed games, where people said that, he wasn't really kind of showing that two-way game. It's finally showing up now in such a huge way these past few games that he is in that conversation as one of the best players right now. That I think that for all the, like a big argument was like, oh, he never hit 100 points, but who cares? He's doing so well.
50 goals does a lot for you. Again, I think of the current crop of players, the only guys who have hit 50, I want to say Sid may have done it once. Malkin's done it. Stamkos did it. It's 60. Ovechkin, obviously. Yeah. Leon and Austin's probably going to do it this year. If not, for an 82 game at this level of his play. And it's scary to think he may not even be at his best yet, which is just incredible. This sounds kind of crazy, but at this level that he's performing, and by the way, I don't want to hear anyone talk about shooting percentage ever again after that. Because he is just making it seem like a fool's tool, by the way.
Is it one of those stats now? It's like a plus minus.
Okay, I'm not going to say that, but
I think it depends on the player, though. I get what you're saying. I just think it depends on the type of player we're talking about.
15 is incredible. What he's doing now is just game breaking.
Yeah.
One thing I think about, and I may be really wrong here because we talk about Selke nominations and we talk about it's a different style of an environment, but I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that he has exceeded what his draft comparison was. He's exceeded Anze Kopitar.
Well, okay, quickly, before that, by the way, I just wanted to say one thing. The pace he's going now, this honestly, somehow, it might be his best goal scoring year ever. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does this year, hits 56 or something, and he never does. Like, he can hit 50, but there's a real chance this could be his best goal scoring year ever, and it's incredible because of the schedule. I just wanted to say that. The Selke conversation is interesting because I think he's no longer alive. Like, what he's been able to turn around in his two-way game in a calendar year has been incredible to watch. Though I think we need to realize what a Selke trope, because like I know Joe said he deserves a Selke. I'm like, okay, there is a good two-way player, and then there is Sean Couturier. And it's incredible that guy can hit 30 on a great year, but like, is he great two-way? Yeah, he's turned into that, though. I think people need to calm down with the Selke talk, because I'm like, God, like that's like, I'm not saying he's a mess. I'm not trying to take away from his game at all. I mean, you're a fool to do that. It's just
there's people who would do that.
I just think he's more valuable to the system than Anze Kopitar. Because I'm just thinking of draft comparables.
Oh yeah,
of what happened there. And by the way, I love that we're on a first name basis with Joe Thornton now.
Is that what did I just say?
You said Joe, like Joe mentioned.
Oh, well, apparently he loves people. He just loves talking. So friendly guy, great beard.
Well, when we're all vaccinated, we'll visit him in St. Thomas, Ontario.
Probably be.
Have you gone
Does he
there?
Does he live in St. Thomas, Ontario, or does he live in Switzerland in the off season?
I don't know. Actually, I have a funny story about that.
Okay.
Not about Switzerland, but about St. Thomas.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I went there for a Thomas the Tank Engine. Apparently, that's a huge event for the small town there near London, Ontario. And wherever you go on every street light, there's a banner of Joe Thornton.
Why not, man?
Because like the Thornton family are just like, including like Sean Thornton and Leafs great Scott Thornton. They just all grew up there. So but everyone just loved Joe Thornton. And it was funny because it was all Boston Bruins stuff, but he was on the Sharks at the time.
You know, it's really funny. You were talking about Crosby earlier. His first game in Pittsburgh, it's really funny. I was watching a replay of it, and he's playing the Bruins, and it's like, he's playing against some of the great centermen of the game, Joe Thornton. I'm like, oh, yeah. It's incredible. Also, I think we have to take a second to acknowledge Michael Hutchinson was really
Alex does.
good in his game against Ottawa. I thought he made some.
Do you know why he looked good?
Why?
Because the team, and I think it's been a discussion. This is what I noticed, and it's been a discussion for I don't know how many years. Limited the amount of high danger chances. It's just a fact. It's just that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And of course, like if they're shooting from the outside, I'm not downplaying Michael Hutchinson's performance. I think yes, he looked much better than he has last year. But the reason behind it is because the Leafs played defense, thankfully. And I don't think he had that in the past. With this team, with Colorado, I think that was the case as well. Like you look at Colorado's defense last year, like they're kind of good or something. I don't know if we've talked about it. They're kind of good. So I think that's what happened there. I don't know if I want to say my faith is restored in Michael Hutchinson. I'd have to see him again. I don't know. I have a complicated relationship with Michael Hutchinson. Also, he's a great guy, though.
Also on the goalie front, I thought Freddie Grant was really, really good last night.
Yeah, he did look good.
While giving him crap for those 2 goals. I mean, Jesper Kotkaniemi is a great shot, and like you don't keep giving away breakaways. I thought Freddie was sensational last night.
I saw that thread, and JD Bunkus and him got into, there was a little thread going on there, but on Leafs Hour they were talking about the important thing to how to evaluate Freddie this year. One of the things is how many games has he won versus how many games has he lost for this team. Not the win-loss record, but how many games has he been the main impact for this team. And right now, I'd argue he's won more games for this team than he's necessarily lost.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no goaltending controversy.
Daniel, you want a word on the goalies here?
That sounded like the Last Dance. There's no backstabbing going on. Yeah, I agree. I think Michael Hutchinson was solid. I think that he's going to be good in this role now of maybe a back-to-back or, the occasional kind of game. I think Toronto's really kind of transformed itself, what Alex said, defensively or in terms of a unit from what we saw during his first time with the Leafs. I just keep thinking about that Tim Stützle goal on him because it was just a bit deflating to see, but it was just such a great snipe.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that, Frederik Andersen's still going to be that guy. It's still going to kind of have to ride him a while longer, especially we don't know with Jack Campbell when he's going to be back eventually, but we don't know how many games do we want to put him in there. There's one thing I kind of mentioned, but is it going to be like the Freddie kind of thing where he's just going to keep playing these amount of games, or are we going to see like what other teams are starting to do where that third guy ends up playing? Like, are we going to see a Joel Wall play?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see a Joel Wall play. I do think you're right, though. I think we're going to see Toronto implement that approach more. And I think we saw it. I think once Campbell's back, we'll really see what Sheldon Keefe is going to do. But with that short period of time where Campbell was healthy, he was, I think he did a couple games he played on non-back-to-backs. So I do think that's something Keefe is going to do moving forward. And I think it's a smart thing to do because the issue with Freddie is he gets to the end of the season or the playoffs and he looks tired. Like he's clearly tired. Mm-hmm. So we got to get, we now that we have Jack Campbell, let's make sure that Freddie's not tired by the end of the year.
So a lot of discussion around Tavares and Nylander, goaltending, Matthews. Why are we talking about Travis Boyd? Why is he in the dock, guys?
I don't know. I didn't put Travis Boyd in.
I love Travis Boyd. Solid depth guy. We've talked about it before, but he's just performing. He's just that guy where it's like a gritty Tyler Ennis.
That's fair enough. That's a really good comparison.
He hasn't looked awful, which for a fourth line guy, like he's looked good. I mean, for a fourth line guy, that's kind of pretty much what you want. I still can't believe he was on PP1 last night. I thought that was funny, and I just didn't expect it. But he hasn't looked awful, man.
It makes me happy when he scored. Just like it's just so genuine that this is a guy that worked for it. Like he doesn't have the Matthew shot, but he just worked for it.
Oh, it does, though. I love how we've ranked the greats of all time. Talked about Ovechkin, the new age of era, like new era of scorers and greats. And we have to take a second to talk about Travis Boyd. Mm-hmm. What is he? 72?
Yes.
Yeah.
Weird number. 71 is good. 72. What are you talking about? Okay.
It's like Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, 72 is a weird number. 73 is weird. 71 is fine. Great, fantastic. I wear that. That's my number.
71.
Okay, I wanted to say something about William Nylander. Okay.
Bit of a benching there.
I talked about it. I didn't even notice that until I was watching. It was in the intermission between the Leafs Habs game and the Battle of Alberta. I didn't even realize he was benched. It's more to do, and I said it last week, and I just want to make it very, very crystal clear about this is I'm getting really, really sick of the people defending William. I've obviously like Steve Simmons, like whatever, like I don't care. We're used to that. And it's like, yeah, no, like everyone's always going to criticize every player more. But I feel like they're getting a bit too annoying when it comes to defending him. It's like, it's the same on both sides. There's no acknowledgement of the bad side of his game from his fans and the damn negatives from the positives from the people who don't like him. And it's so annoying. It's getting, and again, I'm not even a Leafs fan, and I'm getting so sick of it. It's like, guys, he's a flawed goddamn player. Just acknowledge it. Like it's so simple. It's just like the benching is. I don't give a crap about benching.
Oh, he deserved it.
It's hilarious. It's like Line is going to one out of Columbus now. Nylander sits. He's lazy. It's like benching is nothing new, especially like this season. It's like a cup of tea now. It's the hour on the clock.
It's like the 5th time. It's been like 2 months.
Like,
I really like that.
All-star game and two of the best players going back-to-back right now. We're wasting time talking about Nylander. No offense to him. Great player. I think he would be a sensational Montreal Canadian. Like, I understand the zone entries. They would love that on the power play. He'd be amazing.
No,
he's not perfect.
He has not looked great the last couple of games. And you said you didn't know. Like, I noticed when Tavares was playing with Kerfoot and I want to say it was Mikheyev.
Yeah.
It honestly could have been Travis Boyd too. I can't remember. I specifically remember William Nylander not being on the ice.
I think I didn't notice because I was so dejected because my team was
But he deserved it. Like he hasn't looked good the last couple games. And I mean, neither is Tavares, but I mean, I thought Tavares looked much better last night than he had the last few games. You got to learn your lesson, man. Like, and I think Keith said it in the press conference last night. Like, we built up the standard, and he wasn't matching it. Everyone else was matching it, and he wasn't. And damn right, if you're not going to do that, not going to get on the ice. Like Travis Boyd looked better than you.
You know what's going to happen? He's going to have a sensational stretch now, and everyone's going to forget about it. And it's going to be so annoying.
And that's what Nylander is, though. You make a good point. That's 100% what Nylander is. He has about an 8 to 10 game stretch of really good play, and then he'll have like a 5-game stretch where he doesn't look great, and it's just back and forth, back and forth. But what player isn't like that? Like, what player in his money range or his skill level isn't like that? All of them. There's a reason he's not being paid $11.5 million.
And before anyone says Pasternak, it's a really good contract, and they are completely stuck.
If you're comparing him to David Pasternak, either you haven't watched David Pasternak or haven't looked at his contract properly.
Don't understand what's going on. Sorry, Daniel, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just mentioning on the Steve Dangle podcast that there's also mentioned too that they acknowledge that there's going to be those front line those headlines of like the Steve Simmons kind of stuff, but it is what it is at this point where what you have with Nylander. He's 25. That exactly what you guys said, that he's not going to be known as the guy, but he's going to be a respected member of the top 6 when he's bringing it. But it's not like I'd be more concerned if a Mitch Marner was having a kind of game like this.
You know who William Nylander really reminds me of, but on a higher level. Like I think he's a better player. He kind of has the same treatment that Jonathan Drouin has. Like when he's on, like oh my god, like ridiculous playmaker. But when he's off, it's just like. And we can talk. Like, Drouin's shooting last night was like Jesus Christ. I know a lot of people were mad. Drouin has no weight to a shot, but like I was thinking like. And you guys know how much I love Drouin, but it was just like I feel that same way about Nylander that I do with Drouin a lot. And again, if you don't want him, I'll take him.
I do want him. I do. But
Yeah.
They don't speak for the rest of the fan base.
We love you, Willie.
Indeed. Anything else we want to say about the Leafs here, guys?
I don't think so.
I guess no, we're good. We're
All
going
right.
to Habs front now.
Yeah, sure. And I see, Daniel, first you want to talk about the taxi squad stuff because, of course, now Paul Byron was – it was just weird. It was like $1 million in cap space they accumulated with having him on waivers over the past of their bye week. Played last night. I think he had a very, very strong bounce back. Same with Tatar. He had a few bobbles of the puck, which is a horrible lineup. But you can tell they were really, really fighting. And with that, Corey Perry needs – I think it's one more game before he has to be waived again. At the same time, I think they've kind of built the cap space. But it is, I hate saying this, it's a story to keep an eye on with the cap situation. And also Mikhail Frolik had a conditioning stint with the Rocket. There's word that they're going to see if he can get a look in. I don't think it's been confirmed if he's going to be playing tonight or anything yet. I haven't looked at Twitter on the show. For once, I haven't done it. So unless there was something else with the cap you really wanted to talk about, Daniel?
I think it's just nothing too big, but it's just something that I've kind of think about where Eric Engels was saying during the practices that they're not going to have like what we said before, Corey Perry play every game. No. They're giving him a bit of a load management, like Kawhi Leonard in a way, but it's just interesting for me that how are they going to balance everything now with the amount of guys? Like they have too much of a good thing on the wing now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how are you going to kind of tell? I mean, like they're veteran guys, but how are you going to kind of adjust things? Like you're not coming in, you're not going to be playing a few games, we're going to be riding on this like hot streak with things that how are you going to kind of address that now? Because, like these other guys have been around. So I'm not saying it's like the same situation like Victor Mete, where it's a young guy trying to make his mark on the game still, that he wants to play as much as he can, especially when he's gotten the confidence from Marc Bergevin. So it's just kind of interesting for me when you'll have these guys that, they're all pros. Other than Paul Byron, they've all won. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I just would like to know what the message would be.
You know what? Bergevin was asked about that. And he's like, they gotta, it says like, if you play well, you stay in the lineup. Right? And like Paul Byron wasn't good. He got kicked off. Thomas Tatar wasn't great. They kicked him off. You bring up an interesting thing there. And it's like Victor Mete was mad, even though if he had waited a few more days, he was getting in the lineup. Frolik hasn't complained once. And he hasn't touched the ice for the Montreal Canadiens in the game. Like, it's just like, Jesus Christ, young players now they're really starting to turn into basketball players.
I think that's more to do because I don't think Frolik signed this contract without talking to Bergevin and saying, hey, listen, you're probably going to be on the taxi squad for most of the time. Whereas I think with Mete finishing last year, I don't know if he expected not to play. I don't think we walked into, even when he signed his extension, I think we expected him to play more than he has, especially not sitting for that stretch.
I think there was definitely an expectation that the moment Romanov showed up, I think the writing was on the wall for him. Like, same with the Edmondson signing. I mean, like, and don't forget, it wasn't like Mete signed right away. Like, he took his time. Like, he's a Darren Ferris guy. And, like, it's not like in the past Frolik has been the most quietest player. He's a Ferris client. He in Calgary, I remember, demanded a trade at one point. Or it was in Buffalo. So he hasn't been afraid to talk before, but the cap stuff is we're gonna keep an eye on that throughout the thing, because again it's when Perry first waves and in Frolik is when it's gonna really get interesting. And again, I don't think cap stuff is until there's actual movement. Who cares? Like right now, it's gonna be interesting to see if Perry waves again, like if he's gonna be claimed. I mean, right now you look at it, you can probably say yeah, but again he's cheap in that and he's proved he can still play this season.
There are teams who could use Corey Perry right now.
Yeah, and I don't want to lose him for nothing. I like Corey Perry. He's such a prick to play against. He's great.
I love this love.
Yeah, he's a good player.
I love this love of Corey Perry right now.
You don't like Corey Perry when you're playing against him. It's that simple. Kind of like Josh Anderson. And I am waiting for him and Jake Muzzin to have a fight yesterday.
No, honestly.
And
It's gonna happen.
it was like Anderson had like 5 hits in the first, and they were like all against Muzzin.
I think they had the graphic up to how many hits they've had against each other for the last 3 or 4 games. I don't remember how many they've played this year.
When do they play next? The Habs and Leafs?
Oh,
April? All right. So maybe we'll wait for that or a playoff series.
well, wait, so they've played how many games against each other? 4? They're going to play 6 games against each other, right? They're supposed to play 10 times this year.
I believe it's the
They're
end of
go-
the series.
Wow.
Anderson's gonna drop the bombs against Muzzin. It has to happen.
Wow. If it doesn't, I'll be so disappointed.
Yeah. With Montreal, there's 2 things we can look at here. And starting with last night, I thought Carey Price played one of his strongest games of the season. Actually, it's a shame that like his stats are really not reflective of his play to the start of the season. He's been very, very good. Allen has outperformed him, but last night I thought he was great. Especially that save on Mikheyev was like, very good to see you. And it feels like last night there were definitely some gaps with both teams. I want to say the goals that were not, just sort of defensive, sort of like mess up some other teams were the power play goals, I want to say. Because holy crap, that Matthews goal, what are we going to do about it? But story of the night was, oh my God, odd man rushes for Montreal. And we're just going to give Marner a look in. We're going to give Matthews the open lane. And even the first Matthews goal, penalty trouble again. And I hate delay of game, by the way. But just a general thought, I think they played better than they did in the first 2 games, but more victories don't mean anything right now anymore, guys. I thought on Montreal's play last night against the Leafs.
I mean, in the first period, I thought Montreal was the better team. I wasn't necessarily for me, that reason was I wasn't necessarily impressed with the Leafs first period, but I don't know what happened with Montreal. Like I don't know about you, but for me, it just felt like the second period, it just wasn't there. Something wasn't there. It was like something was missing.
I think the challenge, killed their game because they had all the momentum.
That was so weird.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, if Joe Thornton's goal counts earlier in the week, that's a good goal last night. And
Absolutely.
when I saw that goal, I thought, okay, technically it shouldn't, like going back to Thornton's goal, I thought that shouldn't be a goal, but Matt Murray needs to be a lot harder with his pads there. I think letting Joe Thornton at this point of his career, gray beard, pushing in like that, I thought was terrible. And it was just I knew it wasn't going to count. But what's frustrating with it is and I think a part of how it just killed Montreal's momentum is they're pushing hard. And, they had those 2 blitzing goals to tie the game up too. Which was, it's great to see. That's part of Montreal. Like you can't just kick them down. I think they're a hardworking team, and it took 2 goddamn reviews. Apparently, the first one was to conclude if it had crossed the ice, but the ref on the ice had signaled goal, and I was under the assumption that you only do that when you see the puck cross the ice. So then we do all of that, which is hilarious, and that's the call. And it's like, all right, confirmed it's a goal. But then we need to have a separate challenge where Sheldon Keefe challenges the play, and that's a good goal. Sorry, then that is when the goal gets called back. Listen, again, I said in the group chat, I didn't think that goal was going to count. However, get it right. You can't, and this is more than just screwing Montreal's momentum. This is where you kill the game. It takes, and I've been a proponent of getting the call right, but now I'm at the point after that, and this is a goal that went against the team I cheer against. No, too much video review. Just if they mess it up, because there is such excitement in the game. You have this great Saturday night, Montreal, Toronto. Could you imagine the crowd? Montreal get within it, but then they're behind again. Now they're within 1, and then you just have 5 minutes of review, and you just kill the viewing experience.
Well, I think there's a simple solution.
What's that?
There's no reason when they watched that review the first time and they saw because there's literal precedent. It's not like this is the first time. Like, I don't even think Joe Thornton's was the first time a player hit a pad and the puck went in. Like, this must be a very common thing. There is no reason that they can't call that play. I think it's ridiculous that if they challenge for one thing, but they don't challenge it for offside, they challenge it for goaltender interference, but the play was offside, that they can't call offside. That's insanity. That's like going to court for something, and then they discover something else, another crime that you committed, and say, sorry, we can't charge you for that crime because we're only talking to you about this one. That sounds insane.
It's just dumb, Daniel. It's just, could you imagine then if like something like Claude Julien is now challenging the play?
Yeah, guys, those 2 calls in a row is just, it's just like the refs like second guessing themselves in a way, where you have like, oh, it's a good goal, and it's like let's actually challenge this, and let's correct the mistake we kind of made there. But then it's just kind of like you're right. Like, imagine if Claude Julien's like, okay, I'm gonna challenge this challenge.
Yeah, just
in a way where it's just
challenge to the challenge.
Where it's ridiculous at that point. Where I really agree that the momentum that Montreal kind of had there, were a ridiculous second period to begin with, just kind of falls flat at that point, where eventually like the game just didn't have that momentum it once had. And it's unfortunate because like these are like, I mean, like the scoring burst at the beginning of the second.
Yeah,
this is what you kind of expect from Montreal Toronto game, that you never know what is really going to happen. But I wanted to see more of that going into the third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? They killed the viewing experience of that game, in my opinion. I think they really, really did. It was nice to see Toffoli get another one to like try and give him a bit of a spark at the end, but it was also really nice to see Carey was just not letting Austin get the hatch. He's like,
we
no.
love the equipment though.
Yeah, he looked incredible last night. Oh my God, the red pads, the retro reverse blues, which are cursed but look so nice, with his more retro looking or modern day looking Patrick Waugh tribute mask. Oh my God, he looked amazing, Carey Price last night. That is one of the best looking goalie combination of gears I have ever seen in my life. Seriously, I was blown away by it. He had a really good decision there to not use his new whitish pads with his steampunk mask. I thought Carey put it together really, really nice. He's been really experimenting with his gear. Also, I think Montreal got a bit too physical last night. Weber really bid on the play to Matthews that led to the Marner goal. Credible by Marner. He's so fun to watch.
Never doubted his shot.
No. So I do think they need to sort of tighten up on that end. You don't forget the defensive structure. That's a typical goal that I would allow playing NHL when I go to crush the body. And now down 6-0. This is terrible.
It's just too tempting in the video game.
It is.
You always want to go for the big hit. You never just want to pinch.
Yeah. And then looking ahead, they played the Sens today. Montreal, I think they play their last 30-odd games in 70 nights or something like that. So whoever planned the schedule for them this year really boned them, because they had basically 2 bye weeks in the first 4 weeks of the season, and then they're just screwed for the rest of it. I can't stand it. They really did Montreal dirty.
Wait, I don't understand why there's 2 bye weeks. I think we were all under the impression that it was supposed to be this extremely compact schedule. We're going to have all these back-to-backs, and we might even need 3 games in a row. But there's 2 bye weeks.
It wasn't even because they had their road trip, and then they had 5 days off for their home opener, and that was it. I'm thinking, are you just serious? So you give them a crappy road trip to start the year, which apparently is really good for teams. It says they have a good one, which they did.
Was that question? Oh, okay, go finish what you're saying.
And then, just the rest of the season and then they get their bye week in February, and now there's just no room. I'm sorry, what were you going to say there?
I just had a question. Did they start on the road trip because there was an issue with playing in Montreal? Because I remember that being talked about, but I don't remember it ever being confirmed, where they didn't know if the province of Quebec was going to let them play and they had already scheduled it or something like that.
I don't know, because they got AHL thumbs up before the Belleville Sens and the Marlies got it. So I don't know. I really don't know. But it's dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah.
What they're, everyone's having a bad schedule, but at the same time, it's just having all your rest in the first 2 months. It's just, thank God they have Jake Allen. I'm looking ahead. I don't know if it's even been confirmed yet, but I think it's safe to say Jake Allen will get the nod tonight versus the Sens. What do Montreal need to do now to sort of like get the season? They have games in hand around like Edmonton and that. I think first division is gone. I think they've lost that. I think that's completely self-inflicted, by the way. But what are we looking for Montreal to do tonight against the Sens?
Not screw up, like play like they did at the beginning of the season. But I think more basic than that, don't get complacent.
And what do you think, Daniel?
Tighten up. They have the talent. They have the depth. They've shown it. What Alex said earlier in the season, bring that again. Don't get into bad penalties, because that's really been the issue. That play a more disciplined game and make the most of the chances, especially when you have that, like the 3-line monster they have going on.
Yeah. I believe that is everything. And yeah, I checked. There's nothing about lines or anything that seems to have been confirmed. It also sucks that now Montreal have no time to practice. It's going to be a mess. All right. Travis Zajac is taking the ice for his 1,000th game. Good for him. Should have been the cap.
Wow.
Probably. Like that contract he's going to be signed for. I remember when Lamelo signed him to that contract.
Fun times.
Crazy.
By the way, I think this is a quote that Harpo and Basu just tweeted out. I don't know. I think it's from Sheldon Keefe. Quote, the fact that we got more time allowed us to get more views of it in different angles. This is in reference to the Cocky Nemigo that was disallowed.
Mhm.
So that was the biggest thing. Probably the initial angle we had was just the overheads, and it was a tough decision based on that. But we got a couple more looks from different angles that made us want to go ahead with it. It's one of those ones that, based on all studies that we would have done and all historical stuff with it, it was one where we weren't really sure which way it was going to go, but felt confident enough at least to give it a shot with a 2-goal lead. Worst case, we're going to dig in and kill a penalty. But the one angle in particular from the ice, I thought there might be a good chance it can get turned over. Fortunately, it did. So basically, the additional time also gave Keefe a double check to see if he could review the goal. That's great. Love to see it. Fine. I don't know what to say. Also, one thing I got really mad about. Okay, I do want to point this out. Sorry, one last thing. I loved the officiating last Saturday because they just let the game go. Last night, that last penalty, what was it? It was like the last one Toffoli got. And I remember when Montreal were trying to get the empty netter last week, Toffoli got like 3 penalties, like was just getting mauled. And there was nothing. And I saw him get that call last night, and I thought, typical NHL officiating. Like, just inconsistent. I'm like, are you like, these clearly are different refs, and this is the thing, like you can.
I don't think it was. Oh, no, you're right. It was. Sorry.
There's just clearly no actual rule book for the NHL, and they just sort of go whatever. Again, Montreal at the end of it did not deserve the win, but at the same time, talk about what happened in their game. They lost all momentum because of that call. I hate the NHL so much for so many different reasons. Thank you again for Donald coming on. I'm sure we can get all his link stuff and get that for the eye-opener. We'll have him on to talk about basketball. Because the Raptors, they're a good team. They're interesting. They beat Giannis. So they come to Toronto. I love his brother knocking on wood every time Giannis takes a free throw now. Thank you, Voicehead, as always, for being a fantastic platform for the show. Check out Alex's blog. Check out Daniel's stuff for the Eye Opener as well as the Hockey Writer. Check out my YouTube channel for all your Habs needs. If you're listening on the podcast app for iOS, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Check us out anywhere you listen to your podcast. It can be anywhere, like anywhere. Like we're everywhere. Spotify, Podbean, somehow. We don't know, but we're there. Check out the YouTube portion of the show to not only see our beautiful faces, Donald, all that, but be sure to check out the Leafs may have won, but I still have my championship belt as the quiz champion. And Anything else to say, guys?
Nope.
Goodbye.
Thank you.